Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing.
Testing 1 2 testing 1 2.
Can you hear me now? Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. Can you hear me now, Breton?
Good evening, everyone. I'm calling this regular meeting of the Plan Commission to order at 6:30 p.m. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with section 19.83. Thank you. Section 19.83 and 19.84 Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call is showing that all members are present and Bob Williams is absent excused. We are now on to citizen input. We have 4 minutes. Would anybody like to come forward and share your thoughts with us? Good evening and welcome.
Okay, I got it. The Plan Commission, and I'm not directed at any person, I'm just looking at how things have gone here since I started coming here, but they should not be supporting or rubber stamping any projects that come before them until a complete examination is done in complete representation of the taxpayers of Germantown. Okay, I don't know if that's being done. And we also have boards that are elected for the purpose of representing the taxpayers that are elected. They elect you people, not you as this committee, but the board, for these positions to fulfill your responsibilities to us, the taxpayers. Otherwise, why do we need boards? We don't need them then. You might as well just do whatever you want and heck with the taxpayers. But this is a system we have in this country. And so before, and anything that's put before you, I would like to see more. I don't know how many of you take a project and go look and examine it, like I drove around after the flood and looked where these people want to build their buildings. They were all flooded. It's ridiculous. And this should be looked at. And Germantown, I brought this up once before. They did this land use plan for 2000, and it was solely for the purpose when they spent thousands and thousands of dollars for one reason, for future development of Germantown, for the proper land usage. And I'm wondering how many of you even looked at that when you have a project from a developer that goes before you. And as far as Faith Church goes, nothing should be done with for that issue, that project, until there is a plan in effect. We don't even have policies for what we're going to build. Okay, some people want 5 stories. I think that's ridiculous. Okay, and the only reason 5 stories, what they do is they give the developer more money, not us. Okay, it's for the developers want them higher because they make more money. And Faith Church has policies. We should have the policies in effect that direct projects to follow. And so that everybody, your commission, the other committees and the board can follow them. And they should never be started till full examination is done with everything. We come here, I see this coming up again. How many people really looked at that plan? And I wonder why anybody is here on these committees when all these taxpayers come and give you their heart. 68% of this village does not want what you people have put before us. And I think a lot of it goes back, in my opinion, to our administrator and our development manager, who also are not listening, and they keep pushing these projects. Every time you come here, there's all these numbers and charts and everything else. For what reason? We're in a really bad economy. I don't know if anybody knows that or not. Maybe you make enough money where it doesn't hit you. I don't have enough money, but every dollar I have has a name on it, and I don't overspend for anything. And because we are in a bad economy, and I don't know, we got another business now going out, another pizza place that's been here for years is leaving. I don't know if that's in Germantown or not, but it's that Uno, I think, right by Applebee's. They're going to be leaving also. This is not good. We have a lot of empty things, and you're depending on our money to pay for what you want to do. and it's not going to work. We don't have the kind of money. The taxpayers can't be taxed out of debt like this to the point where we can't afford it anymore. And this 2050 plan is useless when the economy and the money is not available from us. This is our money. So I'm asking you, please take your time when you look at something, really look at it and see if this is something that we can afford. We should be trying to get out of debt and not get even higher in debt. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I do want to make a comment tonight that the public hearing for the planned Blackstone Creek Plan Development District has been postponed, likewise under new business as well. So if there's anybody in the audience that was going to speak on that, I just want to share with you that that is going to be postponed and that will not be discussed under new business. Would anybody else like to come forward tonight and speak? Come forward. And make sure you fill out the yellow form in the back and give us the form, okay? Please state your name.
My name is Tanner Hahn. I am the head trustee over at Faith Lutheran Church here, right across the street. I'm speaking on the Cyrus Property Group proposal. I have a large showing of support for this plan. Almost everyone over here on this side here is from Faith Lutheran Church. That property has been on the development plan for forever, that they were eventually going to develop it. And since I've been a trustee, there's been people come and go and have always been interested in buying that land. And I'm going to tell you right now, we are interested in selling that land. We will continue to try to sell that land because we have no use for that land. That land can benefit the village of Germantown, help get tax, money for the village. It's certainly going to help the church, if you talk about business going out, well, we don't want churches to go out and leave Germantown either. So that money can be greatly used at Faith Lutheran Church, and in return can be returned to the village in youth for what we do as an outreach program for the church. It's very hard to sustain a church nowadays, and so the funds from that sale will greatly benefit not only the church but the village in general going forward long term. So I said, I want to just show my support to the plan. I have been working with these guys for almost probably a year now on this plan before we have presented it. So we have crossed a lot of T's and dotted a lot of I's, and we think it's a really good working relationship that can be a benefit, for the village. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to speak tonight? Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. I'm David Baum, trustee for District 1. I got two items I'd like to talk about. One is the Faith Lutheran Church, the Cirrus Property Group. We've talked about this project a number of times before. I am not opposed to multifamily on that one or higher density, but it is this type and style of housing that is wrong for that area. We've talked about this numerous times, the right project in the right location at the right time. Those type of houses are too dense for that site. There's too many of those units on there. Not too many housing units, just too many of those. They take up too much land. What should go there is something similar and contextual to the other surrounding units. If you go to the east, there are two-story walk-ups with attached and detached garages. If you go to the north, same type of thing. Two-story walk-ups with attached garages. Gives you a little bit more land in between the units, more open space, but they have the same density per acre as this one does. Second thing I'd like to talk about is the potential policy for the amount of multifamily housing in development in the village. Not sure. The village board has already made a determination on this. The village board decided we don't want a policy. So if you guys want to shorten your meeting, somebody can make a motion just to table it for further future discussion and not take a vote on it. It's not necessary to vote on it. We've already done it for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to come forward tonight and speak? Good evening and welcome.
Judy Rogers, and I live on Wagon Trail. And I apologize if this is going to jump around. I was up north for a funeral this weekend, and I didn't get to look at this until this afternoon. So I apologize if I jump around. Coming to these meetings recently, I came to the conclusion that I wish there was a clear definition. You define single family as single family attached, detached, and duplexes. But to me, the problem comes when you talk about multifamily. And I think the biggest pushback that I've heard from talking to people is apartments. Yes, we do need some apartments, but I've looked at any number of apartment buildings, and especially in Green Bay and around the area. And what strikes me is the height of some of these buildings. 2 stories, fine, not a problem. Maybe 3, nothing above that. It doesn't fit Germantown. And I don't understand the comparison with other communities. Germantown is Germantown, and we shouldn't apologize for how we are or what we want to be. We don't have to be like anybody else. I looked at this, and the time frame for this was supposed to be through 2040, and through that time there was supposed to be 1,135 multifamily units. But we were talking from the information in tonight's packet was 707 plus the 35 from Faith. So why 65% of that is being pushed into the next couple of years, I don't know. Why we're trying to get this all done. I didn't do a deep delve into Faith, but I looked at that development. I didn't see a problem with it because to me, it's not tall. It's 1 and 2 stories. And they've got the woods behind them. So for those 35 units, I don't think it's necessary that you have to have a whole lot of green space there. Plus, I didn't see what the cost of those units would be because a lot of what's been talked about is affordability. Affordability of anything but apartments, because these apartments that they're talking about, those rents are not affordable, not for most people. So, and then the last thing, I'm getting a little bit concerned about the spending that Germantown's going to have to do in the next couple of years. What you're talking about with the village center was about $12 million. You have 2 lift stations that I think that you're talking about another $8 million. You have the renovations to the fire station, which is $5+ million. And you're talking about redoing Division Road. So there's an awful lot of dollars that I see that this village is going to have to find some way of accounting for. So I just ask that when we plan these things, that everything doesn't all have to be done all at once. So that's all I have to say. Oh, just one other thing. When we talked about the village center, you talked about Sutton Farms going way to the west. We're building way to the east. This really isn't village center that what you're talking about, Pilgrim and Mequon. When you talked about that there's supposed to be a marketplace there, there's not enough room for that marketplace, not to have any number of things. We've got a great place for entertainment and gatherings at Fireman's Park. I've been to 2 wonderful concerts there that were attended by maybe 1,000, 2,000 people. Excellent. Have it over there at Fireman's Park. But if you're going to talk about putting retail here, where's the parking? I've seen these diagrams and I sure don't see parking for other than the apartments that are there. So some apartments, yes, but I would certainly hope that you would consider putting in more different types of multifamily units other than apartments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to come forward and speak tonight? Is there anybody on WebEx? And also, did we get any, no one's online, did we get any email comments? I don't think we did. Okay,
There is no one online, Chairman, and no, we did not get any emails today.
No line. Thank you. Okay, we're now on to item 4, approval of the minutes, the Plan Commission minutes from 7/14/25 and the Joint Village Board and Plan Commission minutes from 7/28/25. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Do we have discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We're now on to item, we were going to be on a public hearing, but again, the applicant for that development voluntarily withdrew the application at this time, and that will be coming back for further consideration. We are now on to new business, item A, Keller Inc., agent for Prescription Analytics Incorporated, property owner, site plan application for exterior and interior remodeling of existing 54,000 square foot industrial office building located at N114W18770 Clinton Drive. Jordan, it's all yours.
All right, thanks, Mr. Chairman. As you mentioned, this is a site plan review for Keller Inc. representing Prescription Analytics, properties located in the Germantown Industrial Park off of Clinton Drive. Pictured there on your screen, the site zoning is M1 Limited Industrial. Proposal, as you saw in the packet, Prescription Analytics is looking to locate their new corporate office headquarters at this location. And they are a pharmaceutical manufacturing consultant. The total site area is 4 acres and the existing building is 54,000 square feet. And does have existing off-street parking area and landscaping and the like. Summary for this project is essentially interior remodel for the portion that Prescription Analytics is proposing to occupy right now, which is roughly 32,000 square feet. You can see in the packet, the floor plan and the layout. Some of the remodel would be to implement new office area, wellness areas, and some additional storage space with an overhead door on one of the western building facades. The project does come with an exterior building retrofit and facade enhancement, as you can see in the renderings that were submitted. Most of it's painting and revamping of the existing concrete block walls, and also new siding and windows to the site. So here's a site plan with the light shaded area being the area of the building that Prescription Analytics proposes to remodel and occupy their offices. The floor plan, which was included in the packet with the proposed remodel. And some building elevations where you can see the newer look and the facade renovation that they're proposing, because they're going to purchase the entire real estate and property and revamp the entire structure, although they're occupying 32,000 square feet of the 54,000 square feet building. Here's some renderings which were included in the packet as well. With that, office industrial use, which is proposed, is consistent, staff finds, with the zoning code and the 2050 comprehensive plan for the industrial park. And Public Works village engineer did not have any comments, considering this isn't much in terms of the way of exterior improvements to the site. So with that, staff recommendation is to approve the site plan application for Prescription Analytics, subject to the 6 conditions listed in the packet. I do think the applicant and representative are here as well, but I can take any questions first.
Okay, any questions for Jordan?
I'll make a motion to approve the site plan application with the 6 conditions as noted in the packet.
Second.
Do we have discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to item B, Blades for Osaki Development Corporation, property owner site review or sign review application for Blades Golf located at W188 and 11770 Maple Road in the Germantown Industrial Park.
Yes, just moving up the road a couple properties. This is a sign permit application for Blades Golf, who was granted a conditional use permit about 4 months ago for an indoor golf recreation entertainment facility. Property here, as you can see, is off of Maple Road, and property zoning is M1 as well. This is only one proposed sign on the western building facade, as you can see in the packet, at 30 square feet, single-sided, and it is proposed as channel letters and illuminated. One thing I should mention, I handed it out on the dais. There was a last minute correction or revision by the applicant. Apparently the awning location originally proposed, there's some worry about the structural integrity of that. So pursuant to what the landlord and the applicant agreed on, they're shifting the sign to what you see in the revised location, which is just about 10 feet to the east, or I'm sorry, to the south of the awning. And here's the sign location per this map. So with that, the sign does comply with code, and it's a permitted conditional use that was approved back in May. So with that, this recommendation is to approve the sign permit review with a condition specifying that an electrical permit is applied for and obtained by the applicant.
Thank you. Questions for Jordan and or entertain a motion?
I'll make. Second.
We have discussion. No discussion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to item C. JSD Professional Services Agent for Heather Lake LLC and Ellsworth Corporation Property Owner N109W13300 Ellsworth Drive Site Plan Approval Extension Request.
Yes, so moving over to the business park. This is Ellsworth Corporation. They were granted site plan approval last year, 2024, for 52 additional parking spaces to the east of their manufacturing warehousing facility. Location is off of Ellsworth Drive, as you can see in this attached aerial. The approval last year was in August for the 2 additional parking spaces and landscaping. And a little bit about Ellsworth, they do specialize in chemical distribution, and their original approvals were back in 2012 in the business park there. The site does include kit packers and resin lab, and it's the corporate headquarters for Ellsworth to the east, actually, of this subject location. There's no change to the existing facility under this original parking lot expansion approval. Here's a site plan that was approved in August 2024, along with the landscaping plan that was included in the packet. So with this, as mentioned in the staff report, the expiration of the site plan does come 12 months after original approval, unless an extension is granted. And as you can see, section of the code at the bottom allowing for the Plan Commission to grant an extension. And with that, you can see in the letter that there were some changes in staffing and site engineers. So the project had not been implemented at this time, originally meant to be heard in August, continued to September. With this extension request of 12 months, and the proposed construction schedule per letter submitted would be implemented actually by spring, but they're requesting the full 12 months. So with that, staff does support and recommend the approval of the site plan extension of 12 months to allow additional time for the business and the contractor to implement the 52 additional parking spaces. So that is the recommendation of approval.
Questions for Jordan and or entertain a motion? We have discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. We are now on to item D, Impact General Agent for Grant Drive, Germantown, Wisconsin LLC, property owner, and TCI Alliant Power, certified survey map and site plan application for a 39,000 square foot addition to the existing corporate office and manufacturing facility located at W132 and 10611 Grant Drive in the Germantown Business Park.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman. As you mentioned, also in the Germantown Business Park, Impact General. This application is for site plan and CSM for an expansion to another existing manufacturing facility off of Grant Drive. You can see the existing location of the facility here pictured in the attached aerial, and the site zoning is M1. Currently, the property is comprised of 2 parcels. So with this expansion, Alliant Power is requesting a CSM to combine those parcels. A little bit about TCI and Alliant. This is the corporate office and manufacturing facility. They manufacture filters to mitigate harmonics and improve power quality. And the overall site will become 12.45 acres, provided the CSM is approved. And the existing 99,000 square foot facility has gone through a couple iterations of approvals in the last 15 years. So with this, again, the CSM to combine merge parcels for one development site. Site plan approval that you guys are reviewing would be a 39,000 square foot addition to the building with the new loading dock areas, and also, as you can see in the renderings, the new building addition to match the existing manufacturing facility in terms of style and architecture. So here's the CSM showing the lots to be combined. Then the site plan showing the addition of the building. Landscape plan, some additional landscaping along the public right of way, technically to the north. And then the elevations that were included. So community development, office manufacturing use is consistent with the zoning code and the business park district per the comp plan. One thing I should note too, I did pass along the dais. The village engineer did issue a memo on this specifying that the proposed impervious surface, the existing regional stormwater basin for the a business park does have adequate capacity to serve the existing, or I'm sorry, the proposed improvements at the existing location. And one other thing, the village surveyor did have initial comments per a memo attached. A revised survey has been submitted and is under review. So with that, staff does approve the CSM to combine the existing parcels into one for one development site subject to one condition, and also approve the site plan for the 39,000 square foot building addition to the existing facility, subject to the conditions listed in the packet. I can take any questions.
Thank you, Jordan. Questions for Jordan and or entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed one lot certified survey map, CSM, with the one condition, and approve the site plan application for TCI Alien Power with the following 5 conditions as noted.
We have discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. We are now on to item E. Cirrus Property Group LLC, agent for Faith Lutheran Church, property owner, site plan consultation for a proposed 5.40 acre, 35 unit multifamily residential development located at W172 and 11187 Division Road in the Lannon-Mequon Road corridor. And this is for discussion only.
Correct, yeah. Another site plan consultation on this. As Trustee Baum mentioned, this was heard by Plan Commission previously. The applicant did bring this consultation forward in February of 2025. To avoid redundancy, the applicant does have their own formal presentation, and looking through it today, it's pretty much in line with what I'm going to say. So I'll just fly through mine quick. As you mentioned, it's Lannon-Mequon Road corridor, right across the street actually, for this proposed 5.4 acre residential development location shown in the attached aerial. Faith Lutheran Church site, 10.4 acres. The proposal would be to acquire 5.4 acres of that 10.4 acre site to construct the residential community. 35 total dwelling units on 5.4 acres, equaling 6.5 dwelling units for overall density. It is a for lease community, and I'll have the applicant come up and talk on that as well. Housing types listed on screen, 3 and 4 family units, and also 2 public access points from Division Road, 1 full access and 1 right turn only. Detention areas are now on site. Previously, they were off site during the February proposal for stormwater management, and also each unit to have private front entrance and enclosed yard per this proposal. Here's the modified site plan. And some housing product images, and I'll have the applicant talk on their product. So really what I wanted to hit on staff comments, we did per recommendation a couple of months ago from the board, we're adding in 4 points of statistics in our analysis of multifamily proposals. So the percentages for housing units proposed, it would shift the 25% of existing multifamily units to 25.3 throughout the village based on existing and proposed data. Property tax revenues are right around $44,000 for the village, not all taxing bodies, but for the village would be $44,000 estimated. And impact fee revenues just shy of 300,000 would be estimated for one-time impact fee revenue for the village. And at the same time, this is in neighborhood 47 per the MD Rofer's report serving County Line Elementary. And there would be about 4 student age or grade 4K through 12 students per the ratio that was provided in that report. So with that, I'll actually skip this and get to the applicant if you wouldn't mind.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Plan Commission. Appreciate the opportunity to present this proposal this evening. My name is Daniel Esbani. I'm here on behalf of Cirrus Property Group. The subject site is obviously right across the street. It's excess land that's currently owned by Faith Lutheran Church. It includes what is currently vacant land as well as a vacant parsonage that hasn't been used for quite some time that would be demolished as part of this proposal. The surrounding area, there's an aerial here, it's pretty zoomed out, but shows that the surrounding area is made up of a mixture of commercial businesses that are to the west of the site, institutional uses currently on the site, and obviously to the east where we are now, and then several existing multifamily communities that are further south along Division Road. The site currently falls within the Landon-Mequon Road corridor within the future land use map in the comprehensive plan. That currently lists multifamily as an allowable use with up to 10 units an acre in density. The proposed development is currently consistent with the comprehensive plan and would not require a comprehensive plan amendment. So the proposed development consists of 35 market rate rental units in a range of open concept 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom floor plans, ranging from 1,250 square feet on the low end up to 1,850 square feet on the high end. This development would consist of 10 separate buildings, either triplex or quadplex buildings, so either 3 units per building or 4 units per building. At 35 units, the density is 6.48 units per acre, which is well below, again, the policies that are outlined in the comprehensive plan for the Landon-Mequon Road corridor. The proposal does require a rezone to a PDD would be an RM2 base zoning, along with a CSM to subdivide the property from Faith Lutheran Church, and then would require site plan approvals that would look at all of the normal site plan items, preliminary engineering, and architectural plans. The development will offer upscale, professionally managed market rate rental housing options that aren't currently available in Germantown. All units will have private front entrances, attached garages, a private driveway, and then also pretty large private enclosed backyards. Oh, sorry about that. Each unit will feature either a 1-car attached garage with an additional apron driveway space or a 2-car attached garage with an additional 2 apron driveway spaces. The project will contain 102 parking spots, which would equate to 2.91 parking spots per unit, which is also well above the minimum parking requirements in the ordinance. The intent here is to create a community that has the look and feel of a condominium or a single family community, but just would have the function of being a rental product. We expect that the Carillon at Germantown will attract 2 primary renter segments. The first is retirees, most likely existing Germantown residents that are looking to downsize and may not want to deal with the burdens of owning a home. And the other is actually young families that are looking to enter the community and that are either having difficulty finding a home or coming up with a down payment, but they still want the function of a single family style community. And to be here either because of the schools or just because they like the community or they have family nearby. It's just difficult for them to enter at this stage in the market. So we believe that these target renters actually match Germantown's current demographic profile really well, which I know in the last multifamily discussion, there was some talk about the current demographics, which continue to shift towards an older population. And so we think that these target renters will actually help attract younger families because, number one, it's either the retirees that are entering this community that are then freeing up some single family stock in the community. And on the other end, it's giving them an alternative housing option that's not currently available in the market and actually really isn't available throughout Washington County at all, or even Ozaukee County. It's just a very differentiated housing option that I think is catering to more of the demographic trends that you're seeing today. So here's the site plan, just a couple of quick things to highlight on here. There are 2 access points proposed along Division Road. The southern access point will be full access. The northern access point would be a right turn exit only to help aid site circulation and provide some additional circulation for our service vehicles that would be on the property, such as a garbage truck and a snow plow and things like that. Stormwater management will be handled on site with the construction of 2 new retention basins. And with the current building mix, 80% of the buildings will be 1-story, will be a single-story ranch product, and the other 20% would be a 2-story product. So here are some renderings of the proposed product type. Again, it's really meant to look like a condominium community. This is a single-story triplex building. The intent here is to use quality and durable building materials such as masonry and an engineered wood siding. Here's the 2-story product. All of the 2-story product would be the 3-bedroom units. All of the single-story products would be the 2-bedroom units. As you can see, every unit would have attached garages. And then here's an aerial view of the property. And as you can see, there are backyards here that are all fully enclosed. The intent there is that this private outdoor space would cater again to those 2 primary renter segments, younger families that want yard space for their kids to go run around and have an actual backyard. Maybe they have a dog, they want to let the dog out. And then again, the grandparents most likely that also want the extra large units. All of the primary bedrooms on these floor plans would be on the first floor, again catering to those primary renter segments. So we did meet with the Plan Commission back in February. I know there are some new commission members here. We have made several revisions since we last met with the Plan Commission back in February. We did reduce the overall unit count from 42 down to 35. We increased the site acreage and worked with Faith Lutheran Church on doing that, adjusting the site boundaries a bit to accommodate additional area for stormwater management on site. At first, it was going to be shared with Faith Lutheran Church. This overall decreased the density from 8.89 down to 6.48. We also increased the setback on the south property line. If I go back to the site plan, where that southern access point is, we've shifted that up and have now increased the setback from the vacant land to the south. There isn't currently a proposal for that land, but the idea there was to better accommodate whatever that would eventually turn into at some point, assuming that maybe someday that would get developed. It would just create more of a natural buffer and additional separation between the 2 sites. So we did shift that further north. And then we did add that secondary access point, the northern access point along Division Road, which is a right turn egress only point. We did add that to improve site circulation. I wanted to quickly touch on the school report that was completed. I know that this has been discussed at length here the last several months, but just for our development specifically, if you take the metric that was shown in that report, 0.11 new students per new multifamily unit, the Carolina Germantown will generate roughly 4 school-age kids across 35 units, and that would account for only 3% of the total multifamily units assumed in the report through 2040. The development will have 24/7 professional property management with professional lawn care, professional landscaping, and professional snow removal. The idea here again is that this would really function like a condominium community, but it would be a rental product. There would be weekly trash pickup and biweekly recycling pickup with 95-gallon bins, just like you would see in a normal single-family subdivision. This would be privately contracted through the developer. And then every tenant would have individual screening requirements that they would need to meet in order to qualify for the development. There would be a credit check for every potential resident. There'd be a background check. There would be referral checks as well. And then the monthly income would need to exceed at least 3 times that gross rent. And so the anticipated rental rate right now on average is roughly $2 a square foot. And so from a monthly kind of gross standpoint, the average rental rate would be about $2,900 a month. And so again, this is meant to be more of a high-end market rate rental product. They're larger units than traditional multifamily. They're meant to appeal to those that are looking for a single-family living style. But again, it is much more affordable than what we're seeing in the for sale market. And it does allow those renters to get into a product where it's much more hands-off. Again, if you're an empty nester and you're looking to downsize, you don't want to deal with the maintenance. Maybe you spend half the year in a different part of the country and you just want something that is easier to maintain over time. This would appeal to you. And then again, if you're maybe a younger family looking to enter the community, but you can't come up with a down payment for a new home, it's really competitive. You can't compete with the other buyers in the area. This is a great way to get into the community until another home were to open up. And this is kind of, it's not meant to appeal to necessarily transient renters, which you hear a lot about with traditional multifamily. These are larger units, and so we anticipate stickier tenants. And I just wanted to highlight some project benefits as well. As I mentioned, this does offer a differentiated rental housing option while it's still adhering to the village's land use goals. On the right side of the screen, and it's actually a little difficult for me to read it, but we've added a couple of excerpts from the comprehensive plan. It states that the goal for housing within the village of Germantown is to nurture existing neighborhoods and develop a variety of new housing types that are accessible and welcoming to a diversity of residents. It also states that developing a diversity of housing choices is an important part of the community resiliency, allowing residents of all ages to grow up and stay in the community through all life stages. We believe that our proposal really aligns very well with those policies that are outlined in the comprehensive plan and will greatly benefit the community. There are also obviously the benefits to Faith Lutheran Church. As Tanner mentioned, the church has been looking to find a development partner for this excess land, and they've been a great partner to work with us, and we've spent some time with them working through this proposal to ensure that it would be a good fit, complementary fit for the church. The proposal will take land that's not currently on the tax roll because it's owned by the church. It'll place it on the tax roll. We anticipate approximately $130,000 in new annual property tax revenue. That includes what would come to the village and then also the other taxing bodies. And then we would contribute approximately $300,000 in one-time fees, which would be impact fees and utility fees as part of the development. So with that being said, we are just looking for obviously candid feedback here. We've made some changes. We've taken a step back as the village has kind of gone through the multifamily discussion and would love to now obtain some additional feedback, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. And I'm new to this commission. I'm new village president. And you answered my questions based on when you presented here in February on the changes. But from the density changes, was that at recommendations from the Plan Commission?
It was, I would say, probably indirectly. There was some hesitation on the number of units, and so that we took that to heart and wanted this to be more of a palatable proposal for the village. And at that point, the multifamily discussions had not yet happened, and so we were unclear on the direction of that. And so that was definitely in response to that original meeting. We cut back the density just to accommodate some additional green space throughout the development and hopefully address some of those concerns.
Yeah, I think great presentation. I love the layout. I have no problem with the density. I think it looks great. But I'm going to open up to my fellow commissioners. Questions, comments?
I have a couple questions. One, you talked about the enclosed backyards and noticed in one of the renderings, you showed some like white fencing.
Mhm.
I assume all the fencing would be installed up front? So
Correct.
it's all consistent?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it would be installed up front and it would be professionally maintained as well.
Okay. Second question, the storm basin as shown on the site plan, is it still shared in part with the stormwater area that serves the church? And not that that's a problem, but I assume you would have an easement agreement, a maintenance agreement to share that between the two entities.
Yeah, that's a good question. So we're still working through the preliminary engineering. Obviously, that's the next step from here is to create those documents. Based off of the current topography of the site, it may require us to have some sort of shared easement or shared agreement with the church that some of their stormwater runoff would come into the northwestern pond, just based off of the topography. So they would have the right to drain into that pond. But there is already an existing detention area that's actually further north than the pond that's shown on the site plan that is currently utilized by the church. So the intent is that the stormwater management would be handled separately, but in the event that we're finding that the topography is pushing stormwater or would need to push stormwater into our pond, obviously we would coordinate with the church on that.
Thank you. Commissioners. Josh.
I just have a couple questions, but maybe one for Jeff. What determines when a development needs a turn lane in and a turn lane out? Say like Ashbury Woods has one entrance and they have a lane to decelerate in and a lane to accelerate in when you leave. What determines?
More typically, there's some transportation engineering standards that dictate that based on traffic volumes and anticipated traffic flows. Ordinarily, or typically you'd require a traffic study to get a handle on what sort of traffic would be turning in which directions, and that sort of thing, to help further the design of those particular intersections. On top of that would be the government that has jurisdiction. In this case, the Village of Germantown may very well have already decided or will decide as part of our Division Road project how to address something like this in terms of whether it needs bypass lanes or separate turn lanes or both. That's a detail that's yet to be determined, but will be addressed as part of the more detailed engineering.
The land you said you added on to reduce the density, that's that back leg where the pond is on the northwest corner?
Yes, exactly.
So that added to the piece of land, but did not reduce the dense appearance, right? It's just.
But we actually did reduce the overall count.
Right.
From
formula
42.
reduced, but the
Yeah, and
dense appearance of what's on the parcel remains how.
yeah, correct. Yep. Yeah, and this may shift a little bit as well. The detention area to the north may shrink a little bit, and we may have to increase the little detention pond that's currently at the southeast portion of the site, given the way that the topography is flowing. So that might become the larger pond, and so which would affect the site layout and maybe break it up a little bit more as well. But that's correct.
What would hold people back from turning left out of the north entrance versus right?
So the way that it would be designed is, I'm not a traffic engineer, so I don't know the name of the actual, it's like the triangle, like concrete triangle, essentially, that would only allow you to turn right. Yeah, an island. And that's obviously design that would be presented to the Plan Commission and would need to be approved. We are planning on kicking off a trip, having our traffic engineer complete a trip generation letter, which is the professional estimate of based off of the national standards of what a community like this would generate traffic wise. And then from there, obviously would be presenting that to the Plan Commission and to staff for additional feedback.
You know what the depth of the driveways are from the garage door to say where the grass?
Sure. Yeah. So the driveways are anywhere between 20 to 25 feet long. So they would accommodate one vehicle in length. The longer driveways could accommodate a large pickup truck. The smaller driveways obviously might be better suited for an SUV. But there would be 2 driveway apron spots for the 2-car garages. You could, park 4 cars there. And then for the 1-car garage, it'd be two parking spaces for that unit.
And then the last question, how do you mow in between all the fences?
That's a great question. So it's more labor intensive because you're obviously walking around and you're having to mow smaller yards that are fenced in. The idea here is to provide access gates for the landscaping company to come and do that work. We have yet to go through that detailed design of where we would place the gates, but the idea is to try to make it efficient for a landscaper to come and perform that maintenance. But
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Bridget?
I too had the question about mowing, so I appreciated that, Josh. So on this site plan, how wide are the average units? So you've got a dimension lengthwise, but you don't have a width dimension.
that's a good question. I want to say I'm hesitant to give you, obviously it's an easy check. I'm hesitant to give you the number just because don't hold me to this. I want to say they're 46 feet wide, around 40 feet wide.
So it feels pretty narrow to me, that just a feeling. There's no science behind that.
And we have floor plans as well that obviously we'd be happy to share and would be
Well, and I
part
think
of
that'll
the-
be helpful when you come back with your next stage of, what do the insides of these buildings look like? Because they do seem rather small. So I'm questioning the logistics of how do you fit 3 bedrooms into a space like this and
Sure.
still have room for all of the amenities to a price point that you're talking about, you're going to want all of those things.
Sure.
I did do some math on what that equate to for 3 times the rental rate. And interestingly enough, that's right at the Germantown median income from the census. So just a little tidbit of information for my fellow commissioners. And then my last question is, it doesn't look like there's any visitor parking here. So in a 2 to 3 bedroom unit, you may have multiple cars. Either you're going to be moving those cars in and out to be in your garage spot or into your parking space. I think that this would be one of the instances where visitor parking would be very beneficial to the users
Sure.
and folks that would live here. That may affect your density because there's not really a lot of space to
Yeah,
arrange.
I appreciate you bringing that up. We've already started talking about some areas where we could program additional parking if we needed to. Again, the site is, it currently produces more parking spaces than even the ordinance would require. It's substantially more. So we have confidence in the parking count, but obviously if the commission felt like more would be needed, there are things that we can definitely do to add some additional guest parking.
And I think it's really the guests versus the folks living here. Based on a 2 to 3 bedroom space, your 3 bedrooms are probably your 4-car spaces developments. But just the single bedrooms, you might have a couple living there with 2 cars, and now they want to bring a friend over, and now that friend doesn't have anywhere to park.
Sure.
So more of the guest parking versus the user parking.
And I just wanted to address the first comment that you had about the sizes of the units. So the 3-bedroom units are actually the 2-story product. So you get additional bedrooms and bathrooms upstairs. So you have 2 levels there and the 3 bedrooms are about 1,850 square feet, which in terms of traditional multifamily, if you look at garden style, 3 bedrooms are typically 1,200 to maybe 1,500 on the really high end. So these are substantially larger units than you would see in a traditional multifamily unit or community.
Any other comments, questions? Bob?
Thank you for your presentation. Couple of questions. So I like how the densities fit within the comprehensive plan. Actually 3.5 dwelling units per acre less than what would be allowed. So I'm always glad to see that. Could you go back to the rendering? But next one. It's the one that showed that one there. I kind of share the same concerns that have been voiced here. It just looks so packed in there. I don't know if it's the angle or the view of the rendering, but it just seems just so tight and so packed in there. I understand that the dwelling units per acre is acceptable, but something about that drawing just makes me a little concerned about how much is squeezed into that one area. The other concern I have, if you can go back to the rendering, actually. Yeah, like that one there, or that one. I'm not crazy about the architectural design of that vertical thing. Now, that just may be me, or I don't know if others share the same thing, but you talk about in your project summary that the architectural style of the project aims to integrate seamlessly into the existing neighborhoods while incorporating modern design elements. So I don't know if this is attributed to modern design elements or that, but I don't think the way it looks now, it really incorporates into the other neighborhoods. So you may want to look into that.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm happy that we're adding taxes to our, to the village, 130,000. Faith Lutheran loses parking, I assume?
No, we don't touch their access point or their parking lot at all.
Okay. And as far as, are you proposing a traffic study?
So we would be producing a trip generation letter, which would kind of be that first step in determining if a traffic study would be needed. We've kind of done the preliminary analysis of that, which obviously we'll share that letter once it's completed. What the trip generation letter will produce is essentially a number of cars during peak traffic flows that are going either in and out of the community. And then based off of that number, the general, there are general Wisconsin traffic guidelines that most traffic engineers will follow, and it's actually the recommendation of the village to follow those guidelines. It states that if that number is greater than 100, that's when they typically will recommend doing a traffic impact analysis. We anticipate that number to be roughly a quarter of that, roughly 25 cars going either in or out during those peak traffic flows. So we're not currently assuming that we'd have to do a traffic impact analysis, but obviously we'd share that trip generation letter and would be obviously happy to have further conversations on that. It's ultimately up to staff and the commission members on that.
But already you're making recommendations of left turns only, 2 access points. So how did you arrive at that decision?
So the secondary access point was actually added because of some comments that we received here back in February with concern of circulation within the community for residents. There was one comment about, well, the unit that's at the furthest northeast would have to drive all the way through the community to get out. And so there was concern that there wasn't enough circulation. And then also internally, we're thinking about how to manage service vehicles as they come in and out. There would need to be obviously a turnaround point for the garbage truck and for the snowplow. So that was a way to accommodate their exit of the community as they get up to that point. So that was in terms of making it a right turn egress only, it was to limit the amount of flow coming out of 2 access points, trying to really limit access just to that southern point, which is further away from that intersection.
We're used to seeing traffic impact analysis reports. That's what we're comfortable with.
Okay.
The letters, you're saying the letter might just be a justification to do that or not do that. I'm not sure if our staff is comfortable with that. I'm a little concerned with that northern access point. You're getting close to the intersection, and you could run into some queue lengths on that road during peak hours when the signals are red. So the closer you are to an intersection, the more challenges you could have on that. So you talk about the reasons internally for it. I'm not convinced that that's that big of a deal. I mean, how big is a site?
Sure.
So you drive another 5 seconds to get to that southern access point. So just kind of a word to the wise that north entrance could be a problem for traffic.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Further comments? Bill?
Go back to the idea of the size of the structure, the complexity. There, okay, now that one, and what's the one that's next to it? Yeah, I think I'm seeing what you're seeing in the design. I don't see it in that picture, but go back to the one where it's 2-story. It just seemed like there's an awful lot there. It's busy. and it makes it look more crowded than it really need to look. Now, that's a concept too, because I noticed a lot of the new apartments we're seeing in Menominee Falls, it seems like the concept is that they're almost coming at you on the street. I don't personally like that, but a lot of people do. So I know that it's a choice you have to make, but I see what you're seeing, but I don't see it in that other one. Now, admittedly, it's only one story.
The other one?
Maybe
Yeah.
if you follow some of the design plan there, because you actually have some height there with those peaks. So anyway, just some food for thought. It just looks too, and I go back one more, not to go back the other direction. Go the other direction. There. You see, that's, if you look further down the picture or the upper left-hand corner of the picture, that doesn't look so bad as right there close to you in the front, where it really appears to be overwhelming. I don't personally have a problem with the density though. I think some of this is probably good. I wouldn't want to see a whole village full of this, but I do think there's a market for it.
Thank
That's
you.
it.
Russ?
Well, first, I just want to thank the village and the developer for using the tools we provided them. I think that was fantastic to just hear it woven in and not have to be, have to propose the question in regards to impacts to schools. And they're dead on with what it would bring. We looked at that. One thing Rofers that did reveal in the report, if you read through it, is the need for this village to provide some development to allow that downsizing or that alternative home living to free up some of our single family homes to bring more families in, because we do see in those neighborhoods the turnover isn't as great. And while they did bring in a rush of students when they were developed, 30 years in, it's a stalemate as to the students have moved out, gone off to college, whatever, and the families are still there. And it's a lot of times it seems like it's driven because we don't have this type of product offered for that kind of that downsize or that alternative lifestyle, less maintenance, those types of things. And so I think overall in the village, we have a lot of these pockets, these little islands of land, and what's going to occur with them. And I think this is probably one of three or so that we've seen come forward as development for those little islands. And to me, it's a smart use of that to give us a tool to provide that relief for that single family home ownership to move and open up for more students to come in that way. It's interesting. One question I had was the parking for sure, especially with only a 24-foot wide private road. I think you're gonna, people that want to come visit, especially young families, and they're gonna, those types of things, or grandma and grandpa, or whoever happens to inhabit this. That's a concern for me, is where do they park? And ultimately, if only a car can only fit the length, and then depending on the length of your car, maybe it doesn't fit at all in the driveway. This could be an issue. And I think I know the answer to this, but any thought given to providing community amenities?
Yes. The idea with this community is for it to, again, feel like a single family or a condominium community. So we view, I guess, the amenity as the substantial backyard, which is anywhere from 600 square feet to 850 square feet, depending on where it's placed within the community, which is, atypical in a traditional multifamily unit. You're not getting that private outdoor space. So that is kind of the biggest amenity that the community would provide. We've discussed some other site amenities that we could program in some of the open spaces to kind of create more of that community feel. And a really small example would be kind of like a garden area, kind of like a shared community garden area, especially considering maybe the demographics of who might be renting here would appreciate something like that, where this is a rental, so they're not necessarily having complete ownership of the landscaping in their backyard, but we'd give them an area to do some gardening and things like that. Those are the types of amenities we've discussed. The community being only 35 units really prohibits a larger clubhouse, for example, or some of the larger amenities you would see in a 200 plus community. It's just a different product that we're envisioning here.
I guess that's where my thought went. It's like, we don't have a clubhouse here, but maybe it's because the unit.
Exactly.
Support it. Okay, thank you.
Jeff?
A couple more follow-up. Do you envision curb and gutter for the private streets?
We don't necessarily envision one or the other. That obviously is something every community has different standards, and we would adhere to what the village's standards are on that.
And I was thinking it through the parking as we're talking about it. On the southern bank of buildings, they're single loaded on the north side of that southern street. So it may be possible to have, parking on one side with 24 feet of asphalt.
Sure.
I know I live on a street that's wide and we have one-sided parking and it seems to work out okay. So that might be some consideration, although that's probably the only spot realistically, because the driveways are so close together, you may not be able to park a car between the driveways on those areas where it's double loaded on both sides.
Yeah, we'd have to play around with that. I will also note again that the size of those detention ponds in particular is an item that could change once our civil engineer gets into the design of it. The pond to the southeast might have to increase in size, whereas the pond to the northwest would shrink. So that it could open up a different, slightly different configuration that would open up some areas for guest parking.
Okay. One last comment. I do not know if the Division Road design includes public sidewalk on the west side. Would you consider adding additional sidewalk along the frontage to provide that sort of circulation for the walkers in the neighborhood? Now you've got an internal connection about in the midpoint. But they couldn't sort of walk in kind of a crazy 8 pattern because there's nothing shown out on Division Road, and a sidewalk there, either public, if the village provides it, would be helpful. Or maybe you could provide it if the village doesn't have that in its plan. Just something to think about.
There's a path on the east side.
Yeah, but you don't want to cross Division Road to walk, 300 feet and then cross back just to finish your walk within the neighborhood.
Yeah, we may be challenged with that throughout the whole division project, though. Talking to the engineers, and you look at the cost to provide walks on both sides, it starts to get real pricey real quick.
Right.
But I mean, that would be the Cadillac if we could do it.
Bridget?
Another potential option for walking and just increasing the accessibility to amenities, there is a gym right on the corner there. So if you're able to provide a walkway along the west side of your property, some sort of trail, either connecting Division, that might be beneficial in a way to increase the amenities of the space. But as we were talking about drainage and the civil engineering process, as you start to dig into those details, it's going to be really important to make sure those backyards drain. Anytime that we have drainage and fences, those usually do not cooperate with each other. So making sure that the water does get out of those backyards and not into people's homes.
Okay. Josh?
Are they slab on grade or is there a basement?
Correct.
So then, like the back door of, say, the ranch quadplex, is that just a walk-in? Or is there a step up?
The back door, so depending on, that would be regarding the one step. Obviously, the intent here is that it would be as kind of flat throughout as possible. There may or may not need to be a step there based again on the grading. If you take a step up into the first floor off the back patio, there would be a back patio in every backyard as well, like a concrete pad. So sometimes you would need to add, for example, a step from inside the garage into your house. My house has that from the garage. I take a step in. Sometimes you would maybe need to do a step in again from the back patio. Some buildings may have that, some may not.
Building off of what Bridget asked, that, I mean, give it in the rain we had a couple weeks ago, they had water 6 inches across their living room floor.
Yeah.
Fence would have helped hold it all in. So I don't know, I guess it's just we're not voting, it's a consult, but I would love to see the density that you're at, but without figuring that leg that the pond sits on the northwest as part of the formula. And I don't know, do we have quadplex ranches anywhere else Is there, I know that's a product, but I don't think we have them here. It just ends up looking so long and the way the backyards are, I don't know, something bugs me about the layout. It's just tight. It's tight. There's a lot in there. Maybe that's the way of the future, but it'll
Further
take me
question?
a minute
Yeah.
to get.
Did you, anyone from Trinity, when we did have the flooding here in Germantown a couple weeks ago, did you have any standing water on the property? Okay.
We have we have a little bit of basement, but there is no flooding.
Okay, thank you. And I'm presuming as part of your design, you could put in drains in each backyard that would drain somewhere to the ponds.
Yeah, there are ways to accommodate that. Obviously, it would be impossible to design this to a 100-year storm or even whatever the last storm was. And so we'll definitely accommodate as whatever is reasonable for the development. If it goes beyond that, it becomes very difficult from a cost standpoint to accommodate all of that. And I will say also regarding the density, that is kind of the push-pull of this type of development. Because we're not stacking units on top of each other, they inevitably kind of need to be a little bit closer together in order for a developer to make something like this feasible without, and obviously it's our intent to do this, but to develop this completely without any sort of municipal incentive, or you see a lot of developers these days only trying to focus on projects where maybe they can create a partnership with the village. We understand that that comes with a lot of challenges. That is not our intent. And so we're trying to balance this product with this density and without, again, going stacked flats or creating something that would ultimately change the intent of what this is supposed to be. So that's, we would love to accommodate all of these comments, and obviously we will do our best to do that. I really appreciate all the feedback, and we really want this to be a collaboration between the community, the Plan Commission and the Village Board and Faith Lutheran Church, and just figuring out a way, I think, for all of us to kind of accommodate all of these different challenges has always been our goal as a developer. And so I just wanted to share that with you all.
Would your plans be to have a phased approach, or would you construct the whole development at one time?
This would all be constructed at one time.
Thank you.
Right, not to beat up drainage too much, but that is my specialty, so I'm going to beat it up. Typically, storm sewers are designed for a 10-year storm event. That would be the level of expectation, but there needs to be a 100-year flow path. So making sure that the 100-year event can get out of here without backing up into people's basements.
Yeah, absolutely.
Into their living rooms. So, if the grade of the doors is at the same elevation as the grass, there's no way you're ever going to get your 100-year flood out. So there's going to need to be some creative engineering that happens with the fences, with the drainage, with the elevation of the houses, and
sure,
there's a lot of work to happen here.
Yeah.
And I think that is going to likely affect the layouts that we're seeing, maybe even affect some of the density. I do appreciate that you took a look at all of the comments that we provided. So I'm one of the ones that was here in the previous iteration, and do appreciate that you spent the time taking each one of those comments into consideration for this.
Of course, thank you.
Russ?
Just some kind of reflection on some of the comments you just made. From the last iteration to this iteration, it's clear not only did you take some of the input from that meeting, but paid attention to the village conversation as a community and integrated some of that understanding. So I appreciate that approach.
Thank you.
It's fresh for us to have. So thank you.
Thank you.
So the rains we had last month, that was a 1,000-year storm. So we're not going to require you to do that because we like you.
Thank you.
Bill?
What really reminded me of this weekend, we're going to be with a group of friends that are going to be in St. Charles, Illinois. The apartment complex is almost identical to this parking layout. Now, they're going to have 3 separate cars coming from out of town. None of us can commute with each other because we're all coming from different places, yet not one of those cars can park on the facility because they have 2 cars and a single car garage. So we are being we're parking at a local Lowe's store and they're going to ferry people back and forth. Well, I know the rent in that place is like $3,700 a month. And I'm thinking, boy, the kind of pricing we're going to be charging here, a couple or a pair of people that are, renting have a right to have some facility for their friends to visit. I don't know what you can do, but
Sure. No, I appreciate that real world experience. Yeah.
thing, I don't think I'd have
Yeah.
thought of that tonight. I didn't think of it last time. Well, the church parking lot's one way, but that's closer than going to the Lowe's store. That's a long ways away around here.
Further comments? And St. Charles is just north of Batavia where I grew up. So,
Is that right?
yeah, yeah. So further comments? All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
We welcome you back soon. All right. We're now on to item F, potential policy on the amount of multifamily housing development in the village of Germantown. And I will say that the village board did not take action on a formal policy. So that's why it's back to this group for discussion, and then it will go to the village board for discussion and action. So Dr. Rusloff.
Thank you, Mr. President. My intention this evening is to hopefully wrap up our discussion on the potential need for a policy to limit either the percentage or the number or both of multifamily housing units developing in the village into the future. We've had at least 3 formal meetings where this topic has been discussed, back on April 28th with the Plan Commission, May 5th with the board, and back in July, we had a joint meeting of both the Plan Commission and the village board. Tonight, I'd like to summarize some of the key findings and past discussion and open it up for discussing the need for a formal recommendation from the Plan Commission on this topic. In the past meetings, we examined and discussed population and housing statistics. We discussed population trends, showing how the median age has increased in Germantown. Germantown is aging in place, along with a general outmigration of folks in the 20 to 44 age bracket, resulting in, at least over the last 23 years, an increase in our median age from 36.4 to 42.3 years of age. We examined some of the current housing mix and occupancy type of both single family and multifamily types of housing, revealing that our current housing mix is approximately 73% single family, 25% multifamily, and the occupancy type, 76% owner occupied, 21% rental. We also looked at and compared Germantown to other similar sized villages and cities in the southeastern Wisconsin area, where we determined and found that we're sort of near the bottom, if that's the right way to say it or the wrong way. 14 out of 17 of municipalities in terms of our multifamily housing percentage, with 25% of our total units in the multifamily category. At the July joint meeting of the Plan Commission and Board, we discussed some of the typical arguments for adopting a policy. We discussed some of the typical arguments against adopting a policy. But we also went over and discussed some other considerations we would need to make if we adopt any kind of a policy, including and from establishing clear definitions of the terms that we're using, what qualifies as single family, what qualifies as multifamily, to considering how the occupancy and ownership factors into what type of housing we are actually trying to limit. Is it rental? Is it multifamily? Because we have single family rentals, we have multifamily ownership. So it gets a little cloudy, and thus the need for more clear definitions of terms. And finally, we discussed some of the misconceptions that floating around that further cloud the issue, such as multifamily housing equals rental housing equals subsidized or low-income housing. Those are all not givens. In some cases, though, it seems that that's the case when we see and hear some of the commentary concerning some of the proposals that we come before you. Finally, we did spend a good deal of time reviewing the results and ramifications of the Germantown School District MD Rofer's report on the community growth and student projections. While I'm not going to take a deep dive into that report today, but just hit some highlights, some of which we heard referenced in our previous items.
In that study, a total of 2,140 new housing units are expected to develop in the overall Germantown School District. 47% single family, 53% multifamily. Of that total of 2,140, 1,717 are expected to locate in the village of Germantown. That's 80% of the total new units in the total Germantown School District by 2040 are expected to be in the village of Germantown. The breakdown within the village of those units, 66% are expected to be multifamily, 34% are expected to be single family. Of those new 1,717 new housing units in the village of Germantown, 850 of them, or 50%, are expected to occur in three particular areas. Three projects that we've been talking about over time. Sutton Farms with 275 total units, Blackstone Creek, which is assumed at 300 total units in the Rofer's report, and the Village Center, which also assumes another 275 multifamily units. Both of those projects have yet to be presented to us in a formal way. But as you can see, the number of multifamily units are expected to be significant in the near term, assuming those projects do in fact move forward. Some of the findings obviously were very enlightening. The projected student generation rates, single-family housing units, 0.61 students per new single-family unit, compared to 0.11 students per new multifamily unit, all of which in the report boils down to some resulting student enrollment changes between now and 2040, including a net increase of 148 total students for the total 4K to 12 grade level, broken down 129 additional increase for K to 5 grade, 21 increase in the middle school, 6 to 8, and actually a slight decrease of 2 in the high school students, grades 9 to 12. The impact of which, as summarized in the report, pushes the projected student enrollment toward the capacities of the existing facilities with all of those multifamily units, but not exceeding those capacities. By 2040, it's expected that 80% of the capacity will be reached for all of the schools total or on average. 88% of the max capacity for elementary schools are expected to be reached, 73% for the middle school, and up to 76% for the high school. I believe the study indicates that while those capacities rise to that level, it effectively is a peak and then slowly tapers off to a point where the study stops. So, what holds beyond 2040 is something that we'll need to keep a handle on as time progresses. And I think, Russ, as we've discussed in the past, it would be a great opportunity for the village and the school district to get together and tag team on having a similar study or this particular study revised on a fairly regular basis going forward. So bottom line, using that 2040 housing unit projected increase in the report, which I should point out by 2040 is very close to what the total units projected are in the village's 2050 plan. So it's a good check to see that both Rofer's and the 2050 plan sort of jibe in terms of the number of new housing units projected through 2040. What is the impact of those new multifamily units? Again, 66% of the total units in the village of Germantown that are expected to be new between now and 2040 are multifamily. If you roll those number of units into and compare to the existing ratio of single family to multifamily, which currently is 75 single family, 25 multifamily, you add in those multifamily units and you end up with a resulting ratio of 68% single family and 31% multifamily. So if in fact we are going to consider a policy, we should consider those numbers in some way. If, for example, the number of units and the makeup of multifamily in the Rofer's report is acceptable, then maybe the percentage or the ratio that is yielded from that, the 68-31, is an acceptable percentage. We should discuss. Finally, we talked about the village's responsibilities under Wisconsin Statute 66, the comprehensive planning requirements for a housing element, which reads in part, the element shall also identify specific policies and programs that promote the development of housing for residents of the local governmental unit and provide a range of housing choices that meet the needs of persons of all income levels and of all age groups and persons with special needs, and policies and programs that promote the availability of land for the development or redevelopment of low-income and moderate-income housing, and policies and programs to maintain or rehabilitate the local government's unit's existing housing stock. We talked further about the 2050 plan and the surveying that was done, the community survey that yielded some results when asked about, what type of housing residents prefer going forward. And while it is true that the majority of residents in the village indicated their preference for single-family housing types, whether that be single-family detached, 75% of the respondents to the survey, or single-family attached, like townhouse condos, like the ones we just sort of reviewed, 44%. There's also a desire for other types of housing in the village, including duplexes and two-family units, multifamily condominiums, multifamily apartments, senior assisted living, and even manufactured homes to varying percentages, certainly less than the preferential for single family, but a desire for other types of housing nonetheless, all of which would help us meet our responsibilities for a range of housing choices in our community. And finally, it was pointed out that the current 2050 plan housing element does have a policy regarding the mix of housing. Specifically, objective number 2, to maintain a balanced housing mix and concentrate new multifamily development in walkable village center areas or other neighborhoods, districts, and corridors that provide connections to the regional transportation network. And there's reference to the NDC table where those types of uses are specifically discussed. So with that said, I would go so far as to say at this point that staff does not recommend adopting a specific policy that would limit the number or the percentage or both of multifamily housing units. Staff does recommend monitoring and regular reporting, as Jordan did this evening with regard to the Cirrus proposal, and as discussed at length by Village President, that our staff reports for residential housing proposals need to include information on the effect of the single family versus multifamily housing ratio, the impact on the school district capacities, comparing what's proposed to what was anticipated under the Rofers report, presenting information on property tax revenue, as well as impact fee revenue and impacts on other public facility services and capacities, all of which we will start incorporating, we have already, into our staff reports going forward. So with that said, I'm going to sit down and let the rest of you jump in.
Great, Jeff, and I agree with you 100%. As you know, this started back months ago with the Village Center project, and the community was concerned about the impact that would have on everything, to include the school district, et cetera. Staff did a comprehensive benchmarking survey, which we just saw. We had conversations with staff about adding some things in the documentation for review at both the Plan Commission meeting and the full Village Board meeting, in terms of everything from the housing ratio to the property tax impact fee, et cetera. That Jeff just spelled out. I feel very comfortable that this is the path forward. I was sitting on the fence, quite frankly, because we didn't know what we didn't know. But once the information came in and where Germantown fell in terms of the bottom third of all the cities and villages, and then that we have a conversation, like we're having a conversation about the density, so that it's discussed. I feel very comfortable that that's the path forward. I don't think we need a policy, but I welcome your thoughts. And then when we do get to a motion, I would like to have a motion that it goes to the full Village Board. So, Bob.
Numbers, numbers, numbers. Who would have thought an engineer would be sick of numbers? going to kind of echo the same thing that President Soderberg had said. What we should be doing, we're doing already. We're asking the right questions. And these are the questions that were a concern, which kind of prompted this whole discussion as far as this percentage. We were concerned that we were getting a little out of whack with too much rental properties and that it would affect these very questions that we're asking. Estimate of annual property tax revenue, impact of schools, estimate of impact fee revenue collected, assessment of potential impact on other public facility capacities. I mean, those are the questions that we needed to ask, and we're asking them now. So the way we answer these questions will decide if projects move forward or are adjusted. And the percentage that we end up will be the percentage that we end up with. It'll be defined by us answering these questions to our satisfaction. So I don't feel that we have to put a percent max on this. We will let this criteria define where those percentages end up.
Bill?
I thought it would be easier to do, but anyway, I agree. I think if we put a policy together, we end up passing muster on items that don't really feel right. But yet, if we evaluate every program for its merit, then that's not going to happen, or it's less chance of it happening. So I don't want to see us hemmed in that way. So I like the proposal.
Josh?
I guess I agree with most of that. My only question is if all of those come through that were in Director Etzloff's presentation, 800 and some, and then 3 more come along, can you just middle of the game pull the plug and say, oh, no more multifamily permits this year? How do you not exceed what the Rofers report says is too high of a percentage by the time it's 2040? Can you just pull the plug on it and say, well, we're not issuing any multifamily permits until further notice? Or like, that's the only part I don't understand is where you enforce it. Yeah.
No,
How do you enforce it? I'm not saying we should have a limit either, but I understand screening every one that comes forward. We do, but it gets to be too much. How do you?
Well, I think that the key is monitoring what we're doing as we go along and keeping track and doing a regular examination of where we are over a period of time, whether it's at every 10-year interval of updating the comprehensive plan, where as part of the housing element, we do a recheck or a redo of what that percentage is and reevaluate where we're at, particularly in light of what trends may be, 10 years from now. Again, what's happening today and the proposals that we're getting are reflective of the marketplace and what people are desire in terms of the types of housing units for social reasons, for their own desire reasons, for their own financial reasons. And I don't think we can keep looking back and saying, well, we used to have 75% single family. We need to, get back to that one day. I doubt that will happen, but who's to say? If things happen in 20 years, 10 years, where all of a sudden we're all swimming in single family homes again on McMansions and large lots. I don't know. But the trends will help determine where we're headed, and the changes in the characteristics of the community may very well be slightly different and help us steer in whatever policy direction we need to be 10 years from now.
So then when we would make those changes to the comprehensive plan, that's what the developers are checking out on their own time. Oh, this is a community that all our stuff could work in. So that's how they do like their initial temperature check if we accept them or not, right?
Well, one of the things you might consider is if we had a specific policy that said a certain percentage and we're not anywhere near that, may be the signal to the developers that, the village has to approve more multifamily development. Without a policy,
that specifically says what we're willing to accept, you know, you're in a little better position of necessarily denying something if it's not consistent with other aspects of the plan.
I mean, right now, we're at a 73-25 split in terms of where we are in the ratio mix.
We're going to be talking about this going forward, every single development. I can't imagine that we're going to be, increasing that too much or decreasing, 60%, 33, or my gosh, TOSA, they're at 58-42% split. I mean, personally, I don't want to see Germantown to be like our good neighbors south of us, the Falls. I don't want to say that. We're a rural suburban community. I like that small feel, but that's why we're having this conversation. So, yeah, there is a lot of interest trust me, there's a lot of interest from developers that want to come in. So,
and I know we can't say no just because no. It has to be a reason. And so I agree with what you said, Jeff, not putting something on there like a gauge. We're almost there. And then they're all hurrying in the door to get the, so thanks. The answer to my questions.
Yeah, I think I'll start with first. I think we saw it play out tonight, right? With the presentation the developer came back with to the discussion that's just being had. We just watched that occur. They took the conversations that were occurring outside of their consultation and the temperature of the village on their own, and a smart developer is going to do that, and should do that. And we saw how they utilized the data. I think to Mr. Retzlaff's point, the Rofers is a great benchmark for where we're at, but it is going to require us to renew it, and that could tell us throttle up or throttle down on approvals. And I think that type of information, and it's not just Rofers, it's plenty of other things that go into that discussion, but that's a piece and a tool we can use to help gauge and consistently reevaluate. My guess is it's probably an every 5-year discussion, just to keep pushing that from 40 to 45 years to, right? Anything developmental wise is a 5-year cycle. It seems like as I'm wading into these waters anyways. But I think we have that process in place, and through this discussion, it hasn't been the smoothest, but I think the outcome's been phenomenal in where the village is at, in taking the totality of the considerations that need to be into these decisions when a developer comes in front of us. I kind of hate that term situations are situational, right? But I think it does play out that way. And tonight was a great example of, I think, how does that play out without a hard and fast rule in place? And what might be right for this property, for the church, versus another parcel or a larger scale development? It's all different. So if you get into a hard-lined number, as much as I think that sounds like an easy solution up front, I think it would be more cumbersome to manage on the back end versus you take every proposal on its own merits, weave it into the data and the information where the village is at that time, and walk through the project from there. Those are my 2 cents on it.
Thank you. Bridget?
So I was kind of surprised to see this on the agenda too, because when we had our joint meeting with the village board, it seemed pretty unanimous from the village board perspective that there wasn't support for a policy. But I could also see the benefit of formalizing that decision with this group and the village board that we collectively agree that no policy seems the way to go. The challenge is how you do your motion in the affirmative for something that is a not. Any recommendations?
Bob?
Did you mean capping or trying to get a number, a percentage, or?
No, I mean that we do not desire to have a policy for a capped number, or basically following the recommendation of staff. So since your motion has to be in affirmative.
But I see the policy that we ask these questions for every development, that these are the questions we need to ask.
Maybe that's the motion.
Not even
then.
address a percentage or that, because that'll define where the percentage ends up.
Yeah, I And sorry, I don't mean to,
Yeah.
I think it's, you memorialize the need for the discussion to happen every time.
Yeah.
And these X issues, one through whatever, be a topic of discussion or ensure they're a topic of discussion for every proposal that comes forward. The developers are going to understand that. We just saw it tonight. And they'll latch on to it as the process continues, right? Germantown requires this as part of a discussion.
Yeah. These are the questions that are going to be asked.
Yeah, and they'll naturally tailor their report to it. Their goal is, how can I get from A to Z as quick as possible without dollar delay, right, in the developmental process?
And I'm sure they'll at some point call Jeff and say, well, as far as Rolfer's report, if we're proposing this, are we still within your standards, or is there going to be some kickback at some point?
So I think an appropriate policy could be, or a motion could be, the third bullet. Entertain a motion to adopt a residential housing proposal that includes the effect on single-family versus multifamily housing ratio mix, impact on school district capacities, review or impact of property tax revenue, impact of fee revenue, impact on other public facilities, services, and capacity.
To be considered by the full village board.
Yes.
So moved as motion.
I'll second.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you very much. We are now on to item G, a review of the 2050 Comprehensive Plan implementation, objectives and action steps, priority list and schedule for the neighborhoods, districts, and corridors master plans. Director Ursuloff.
Thank you, Mr. President. My hope here is to revisit our priorities and timeline established back in 2023 for completing our master plans for neighborhoods, districts, and corridors. Some of you may recall back in September of 22, the village adopted the 2050 plan. The following spring, February through April, the Plan Commission reviewed the implementation element of the plan, Chapter 8, that has a series of objectives and action steps or tasks broken out by 6 particular elements, including housing, transportation, agricultural, cultural, and natural resources, utilities and community facilities, economic development, and land use. And within each one of those elements, there are specific objectives and action steps arranged by duration, whether it's an ongoing item that needs to take place, short term within a 1 to 3 year period, an intermediate term within 3 to 5 years, or long term 5 to 10 years. Those are listed in 8, and in that process, the Plan Commission considered all 33 objectives and a total of 66 action steps. We broke them out into a table, and we asked the Plan Commission members to review those and help prioritize those particular action steps and objectives to help guide a work program for the Plan Commission and staff going forward. At the end of that process and discussion, the Plan Commission concluded that the focus should start with preparing the master plans specified in both the economic development and land use objectives section of the implementation plan. More specifically, as highlighted here, under the economic development list, Objective 1, develop a master plan for the Holy Hill Gateway District to ensure compatible industrial expansion in Germantown by providing aesthetically appealing development along highly visible thoroughfares to ensure industrial expansion that is compatible with non-industrial surrounding land uses. And Objective 2, develop the Village Center District, including a master plan to enhance Main Street and Mequon Road as complementary mixed-use economic zones with a unique cultural identity. And 3, the land use objective number 5, develop and adopt detailed land use plans for each neighborhood, district, and corridor. In the course of that discussion, the Plan Commission came up with a priority list, if you will, with the top 3 neighborhood districts and corridors being as follows: the Holy Hill Gateway District, number 1, the Freistadt District, number 2, and the Village Center District number 3. The factors, the primary factors that led into that decision and that priority list included pending development proposals and ongoing development pressure to develop land in those areas. The Richfield Utility Extension IGA, which was approved around that time, including the need for Richfield to acquire right-of-way that through Germantown that would extend utilities that would not only benefit their side of Highway 41 and their planned industrial park, subject of the IGA, but also land in the village of Germantown, more specifically in the Freistadt district, would benefit from those utilities being in place as well. And also a desire to replace the land use vision that was adopted in the 2050 plan. That's this particular graphic. That is a generalized land use plan for both the Holy Hill Gateway and the Freistadt districts that was included in the 2050 plan. And finally, other factors included staffing availability, funding availability for consulting services. At that time, frankly, the Richfield Utility Extension IGA and ongoing pressure in the Holy Hill Gateway area led ultimately to the Plan Commission deciding those were the first 2 items or areas that we should prepare detailed master plans for as part of the NDC master plan process going forward. Obviously, some things have changed, and I'll talk a little bit about what the status of that is. A couple graphics just to refresh your memory. The Village Center District is shown here, the Holy Hill Gateway District on the left and the Freistadt District on the right. If need be, we can refer to those as we carry on with the conversation. As a result, in July of 2023, given that priority list, a request for proposals was prepared for a Holy Hill Gateway District and Freistadt District Master Plan. The intention was to hire a consultant that would help us put together either one combined master plan for the 2 districts, or if it worked out, given their proposed project plan, to prepare 2 separate plans, but each being prepared concurrently and being adopted at the same time for those 2 high priority areas. At the time, the RFP was prepared and released in the summer of 2023. We had 4 consultants that submitted proposals. 3 consultants were ultimately selected for interviews. And right around that time in the early fall, the project was put on hold. A number of issues, including the railroad crossing issue. If you can see here, it's a little more difficult, but there's a plan. As shown in here in the vision plan, there's a frontage road that's proposed to be constructed from Holy Hill Road south across the railroad into the Freistadt district and all the way down to Freistadt Road. That particular frontage road also was envisioned to extend north of Holy Hill Road up to Rockfield and eventually up to Bonnywell as well. At that time, the village had engaged a consultant to help us apply for a railroad crossing that would help determine, frankly, whether or not the Freistadt district south of the railroad would in fact be promoted for this type of development as shown in the land use vision, which includes the red, higher density residential and mixed use commercial along with business park uses. The thought being that with the frontage road, there would be a secondary means of access to get traffic destined to and from that area to the interchange by way of this new frontage road, which is currently under construction, at least north of the railroad, and that's High Point Pass. I don't know if any of you have been out there recently, but it's under construction and scheduled to be completed later this fall. At the time that the RFP went out, the thought was that the consultant that we hired would do an analysis of a sort of with the railroad crossing in place and without the railroad crossing. Around that time, we were advised that that's probably not going to be the best approach, that the railroad and the commissioner's office is likely to not look favorably upon a request for a new railroad crossing without the village actually having right-of-way on both sides of the railroad and without there actually being some sort of development proposal in hand. Also, at that time, Washington County had offered funding for a residential market analysis to the village, which eventually became the Tracy Cross study. That was also a component of the RFP, that it was thought that the consultant would do a residential market analysis to help support whether or not planning for high-density residential along 41 would be a suitable use. Because of that timing and that effort, the village considered revising the RFP, reissuing it, and going back sort of to the beginning to take out some of the components that were now being done individually in other ways for the village. And further, once we got into early 2024, there was budgeting constraints for the village, a need to focus attention on other more important areas, the library, parks, police, fire. So planning for future land use just isn't one of the more important things necessarily when it comes to budget time. And that's always a concern. We want to get these things done, but we're not always the most important thing to be considering. So sometimes budgets get shifted around, money gets taken away. And so budgeting is an ongoing issue to deal with, preparing these plans. But there is currently some money in the 2025 budget that could be used to start a process. And the hope is, as I'll explain later, that we may be able to, in fact, move forward with that. So that's kind of the current status of where we're at with regard to the master planning process that was envisioned in the 2050 plan. I would point out a couple of things. The 2050 plan is incomplete by design. We've heard that brought up numerous times, that the plan is incomplete. Well, that's true. The original project plan for the 2050 plan was to include more detailed land use plans for 3 particular districts in the village, namely the Village Center, Holy Hill Gateway, and the Freistadt District. Soon after the effort got underway, COVID hit, and the impact on that, on the overall process, necessitated making changes to our public engagement process. Our consultant had some issues. Eventually, we retooled the overall proposal to yield the land use vision for the Holy Hill, Gateway, and Freistadt districts, as I pointed out earlier. And we did not include, beyond that, detailed master plans, but we built in policies in the plan to fill in the details between the general land use plan and policy parameters that were adopted in the 2050 plan for each neighborhood district and corridor. You're familiar with this, the neighborhood district corridor land use plan. This is sort of the NDC plan, as I refer to it. It shows all 32 neighborhood districts and corridors, 20 neighborhoods, 10 districts, and 2 corridors, all of which ideally would get their own master plan that would be prepared to fill in, as I mentioned, between the general policies and land uses that are shown in this particular chart that's also part of the 2050 plan, that speaks to generalized land use types, densities, and the like for development in our 32 neighborhood districts and corridors. Some other observations. The NDNC master plan process is intended to provide various public engagement opportunities, literally at the neighborhood level. We hear quite often sort of the drumbeat of, where are the neighborhood meetings? Where are the neighborhood plans? That phrase has sort of morphed from the neighborhood districts and corridor master plans that are planned to be done. So when we hear when are the neighborhood meetings going to start? That's this process we're talking about right now. So we need to get back on track. There's no question about it. Another observation, the limited use of TID funds for neighborhood districts and corridor master plans that have a TID either partially or wholly within them has been determined to be an acceptable project cost that we could utilize. We could tap into that if necessary to help prepare these plans, at least where there's a TID involved. And it's not expected to delay any TID closure date. Frankly, the amount of money that would be used as a project cost would be under $75,000 at this point. And that may only be a need to tap into that to supplement what general fund money we have to complete a particular neighborhood district and corridor plan. So as I'm losing my voice, I want to quickly get to what the staff recommendations are at this point, which are to revise our priority list, to change the priorities. And in my recommendation, frankly, is that we maintain the Holy Hill Gateway as the #1 master plan that we need to get done. The development pressure in that area is tremendous. Almost on a monthly basis, we get calls and requests for meetings, only for us to turn and say, look, nothing's happening in these areas until other things happen. The master plan needs to be done. The sanitary sewer service areas need to be expanded, and plans need to be made for how those services are going to be extended, all of which are in various stages of happening. The Holy Hill Gateway District needs to happen soon. Freistadt District moves from #2 to #3, principally because the pressure from the Richfield IGA and the utility extension is lessened because that project has slowed down significantly. And just recently, Richfield finally acquired the last bit of right-of-way along with Germantown in the village of Germantown to complete that utility right-of-way connection through the village, so that effort can move forward once Richfield starts up their industrial park project in their own tax increment district. But to my knowledge, that project is sort of on an indefinite hold until something further happens. So we're not in as big of a hurry to get the Freistadt district planned as we are to get the Village Center district plan prepared. Given the pressure that has started in the last year and a half over the Village Center, I don't like the name, but that's what we've called it, the area, the redevelopment project at Pilgrim at Mequon, also known as the Village Center project. That pressure, as we almost had this evening, a public hearing to discuss development proposals for Blackstone Creek, also at the west end of Village Center. So the Village Center district really needs to have that master plan initiated as well. So my second recommendation is to revise and release the RFP for the Holy Hill Gateway District Master Plan sometime before the end of the year. Use the remaining 2025 budget monies to start, and possibly request the use of TID 8 funds to complete that master plan in the spring of 2026. The next recommendation is to prepare and release the RFP for the Village Center District Master Plan. Do that either very late this year or the fall and winter or the early part of 2026, with the idea that 2026 budget funds that have been requested are in fact provided so that we can start and complete that project in 2026. And then finally, revise and release the RFP for the Freistadt District Master Plan in the fall of 2026. Use whatever remaining budget money is available and possibly request the use of TID 7 funds to complete that in the spring of 2027. So with that, I open it up for questions.
Can the public ask a question that we don't understand?
No, not at this
Yeah,
point.
not right now, Lynn. Lynn, here, let us chat, okay? Let us chat, okay? Appreciate that.
That we have to follow this?
Yeah, we're following Robert's rules. We're having a conversation, okay? Well, we hope to enlighten everyone, provide a little bit more clarity. But Jeff, thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you.
I asked that this be put on, and I'm glad we're having a conversation. And I like everything you had here. I have no problem with anything here. So comments from my fellow commissioners? No.
still have trouble with that. I guess I was a little frustrated from time, not being overly critical, but that we weren't getting these meetings done. I like seeing a plan here. So I think we can finally get through what we needed to do, what we made a commitment to do. So I like it. I like what you put up there. Thank you.
Yeah, and Jeff, this is basically doing what we committed to do years ago, but because things got in the way, COVID and so forth, the neighborhood meetings did not occur. So we're actually going to have a consultant come in and have the neighborhood meetings and have the conversation. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's a fair characterization.
Okay.
And we are behind. There's no question about it. We're behind. And we need to get something done. And I think this particular set of recommendations can set a course, and hopefully, cross my fingers that the budget for 2026, although I've been told it's very tight, hopefully there's an opportunity for us to free up some money so we can pursue getting at least 2 of these going in the next year, Holy Hill Gateway and Village Center.
Yeah, and based on our conversations last week when we were preparing this agenda, you did mention that you did budget for this next year.
I did put money in the budget.
Right.
I put money in the budget every year.
So I'm confident that those dollars will remain based on
I'm
the
hoping.
high level of interest in the community. Bob?
So Jeff, are you behind because of staffing or budget or both?
It's a little bit of both, but mostly budgeting. I mean, because of staffing, we can't do these in-house exclusively. We need assistance. And so that means contractual services and from experts who do these all the time and that can help us get them done in a timely manner, can lead our public engagement processes to achieve the level and the type of public engagement that is expected. Frankly, during the 2050 plan, there was a lot of criticism about the process that lately seems to be having a slightly different tone and has been more acceptable. But having an independent party help us put those strategies together, what kind of public engagement, leading the meetings and leading the discussions, was very helpful with the 2050 plan. And I envision it being very helpful going forward.
The remaining budget, where do you hope to get to, or what do you hope to accomplish? Talk about the remaining budget, use the remaining budget, you said?
Well, I think we can at least get the one master plan started. It'll bridge 2025 and 2026. The money that we do have, there are some other outstanding projects. You know, the Village Center district is still sort of up in the air, and some of that money is been set aside in case we need to use it for that purpose. So it's a challenge. There's a lot of things that need to be done, and in determining priorities, it would help for the Plan Commission to help us determine those priorities.
How much money is that remaining?
Right now, we have about $40,000 in the 2025 budget.
Remaining.
For contracted services, yes.
Thank you.
Bridget?
What is Plan Commission's role for these neighborhood meetings?
Frankly, that will be to be determined in concert with the consultant who will present a plan for community engagement to us in terms of the strategies, the number of meetings, the type of meetings. And we can discuss with them what our preferences are, hear what they have to say and suggest. And we can help design the public engagement process as we go forward.
Josh?
I remember you talking about interviewing the consultants. Did we land on one? Or is that?
Oh, we were very close, but because of the issues that came up with regard to the railroad crossing and the residential market analysis, it was thought on the part of staff and the attorney that we were making significant changes to what we were requesting the consultants to do. And we only had 4 consultants submit, 3 of which were what I would consider to be legitimate proposals. One of the firms isn't even in business anymore. They went out of business a short time after they submitted the proposal to us. So the hope is that through this process, right now, I left a copy of the most recent revised RFP on the dais for you folks to take a look with and take with you. In that, maybe I can steer you right to page
2 for the dollars.
page 13. It has a tentative timeline, if you will. And this is pretty ambitious, but I put this together with the hopes that we might be able to move something forward soon where the Plan Commission would review the project scope as presented in this RFP. We could have a special meeting on September 22nd to get any feedback from you and make any changes that you feel are necessary, where we could release the RFP on September 29th, give about a month for the proposals to be prepared in a submittal deadline date of October 31st. There's a couple of dates in between where to give consultants the opportunity to ask some questions. We provide answers to help them further direct their proposals. The RFP evaluation team, which would be the village president, the village administrator, community development director, and DPW director, and possibly the village engineer, would make an initial cut, if you will, a review of those proposals, make a recommendation to the Plan Commission, who would then evaluate at our November 10th Plan Commission meeting and make a recommendation to the village board, who arguably could help choose a consultant on the 17th of November. And then we negotiate a contract, and hopefully we could kick the project off sometime in December. Again, a pretty ambitious schedule, but I think it's workable if, in fact, the Plan Commission is agreeable to this sort of a time frame and an effort.
Hey, Jeff, could you do me a favor? Can you make sure that we put this on the website, maybe as an addendum to the packet? So it's out there?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Russ? I think you had a question, or you did. Bridget? Okay. Okay.
Everything we just talked.
Sorry. If we put this on the website, then consultants can go find it, and it's not final yet. So I don't know if we can put a
That's fine.
draft
Good point.
RFP up.
Point taken. So what type of motion would you, to move this forward, would you recommend?
Well, I would ask for some sort of direction with regard to my recommendations on the priority list.
Can you go back to the slides?
Yes.
Then there's another slide too, right?
Yes, there's two slides. There's four recommendations. Revise the priority list, release the Holy Hill Gateway consistent with that priority list this fall. Start with the village center next, near the end of this year or early next year. And then finally, towards the end of next year, the Freistadt district.
I'm okay with all that. Thoughts?
Be happy to make a recommendation that we
Go for it, Bill.
move to include the 4 points you have with their subtitles on them. Revised priority list, revised release RFP for Holy Hill Gateway, and those other two, that we move forward with that as you have recommended.
Second.
Do we have discussion? Josh?
Real quick, sorry. So for the village center district to move forward on the plan, does that plan's part of that's happening no matter what, even if the stuff we don't own and the stuff you might sell and the stuff that we might keep, and so that doesn't matter, we still move forward with planning the area regardless of that, right?
And that was, go ahead.
I'm sorry, the project scope for that one's going to be pretty tricky. We do have a lot of moving parts that are already in motion that have yet to be resolved. It's frankly, it's unfortunate that we can't, have a moratorium on certain types of development in certain areas, but legally we can't. And so we've got to we've got to try and jump on that train and get it under control as we're continuing to move forward.
Yeah, I don't think we can let it flow on its own. I mean, we do need to try to control it, difficult as it may be.
Yeah, so working on the scope for that is going to be somewhat of a challenge, but
And then that would possibly lead to the decision of what we acquire or.
Yeah, yeah.
So, all right. That's all I was asking.
Thank you. Russ?
Just kind of given that part of the conversation, is it Holy Hill Gateway District has that much more priority over the Village Center, even though the Village Center is in kind of this flux of needing this work to be done to unlock the options that are in front of the village for the kind of all the property that's mumbled and jumbled together over there? Or do you view this as like a 1A, 1B, and then really that third district?
It's a good characterization. It's sort of a 1A and 1B. Frankly, I see our ability to get the Holy Hill Gateway District knocked out and out of the way in a relatively short amount of time. But the pressure on development in that area is as great, if not greater. And we do have, if you notice on this land use vision, it shows up here on the Holy Hill Gateway area. There's a box, sort of an L-shaped box near the top. It also shows up here on the upper left on the Holy Hill Gateway area. It's a transition area, and that was adopted when the 2050 plan was adopted, specifically in response to comments and concerns raised by the residential neighborhood immediately to the north. Because the 2050 plan put out or laid out as a policy and an action step to develop a buffer area between the industrial and the non-industrial areas, the thought was, and it was agreed by the board, to adopt this provisional or transitional area as highlighted, that unless and until the Holy Hill Gateway District Master Plan is complete, no development can happen in there unless it's consistent with what was allowed under the old 2020 plan, which was not purple. It was effectively the green. Rural residential, 5-acre density, 5-acre minimum lot size. And frankly, the preference is for some, including staff, since this is our plan, that it be an industrial area, a light industrial business park type use, that we don't want it being divided into 5-acre lots that would prohibit that from happening. We don't want the current property owners to carry through on some of the earlier threats to develop a solar farm that would prohibit future more intense development that would take advantage of the utilities and facilities that are already in the ground. So we'd like to get the Holy Hill Gateway plan done and out of the way so that we can address those issues sooner the better.
Bob?
Jeff, you asked for input from the Plan Commission on this request for proposal, right? Yes.
Yes, when we prepared it initially back in 2023, the Plan Commission played a role in reviewing it and helping me revise it to what it is today. So it was easy for me to sort of update that to reflect, to break out the Holy Hill and Frystead into two separate ones and then update some timeframes.
I want us to look at it.
But I want you to take a look at it, take it with you. If in fact you're okay with this recommendation, then I think
We have a
we
motion.
could have a special meeting on the 22nd of September to review it.
So how do you want comments back to you, and when do you need comments back from us?
I think on the 22nd, we would come to some agreement on to what changes we would make to the RFP. So before then or at that meeting would be helpful. The sooner the better. Then we can work up some kind of a list of suggested changes that we can make available to everybody on the 22nd.
And I would ask that you send those recommendations directly to Jeff and not copy any of the commissioners, because we don't want to have a walking quorum. So
Okay.
further discussion.
I just wanted to say one thing about your comment there, Russ, and Josh, I think you added to it. The priority between Village Center and Holyoke Road, I think is given by what you said. You're getting calls all the time. You're getting pressure for use of that property. We don't have a position stated. In the case of the Village Center, I think the priorities is more all of our feelings about what was done, which are not necessarily your priority to present to the people that are using our property want to come into our village. I think it's the right approach, the way you've got it prioritized.
Further discussion? And Jeff, I just want to thank you. This is one of the things that I campaigned on and ran on and was elected on. So I want to thank you for having the conversation. And for those that in the public that need additional information in terms of what we were just doing now, please feel free to call me and or Jeff or Jordan, and we'll have some very good conversations. But this is a good thing. We're having neighborhood meetings. So seeing no more discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. We are now on to item 7, announcements. I do have one announcement. We've been getting a lot of comments from the community in terms of properties that are not being kept the way they should be kept. And we're having very frank conversations with those property owners on the proper upkeep. So you may see some changes going forward. Jeff, I don't know if you can expand on that without naming any names or anything.
Yes, this time of year, it's a real challenge, particularly with regard to weeds and tall grass. It's hard for us, given our own village resources, limited as they are, to cut our own rights of way and properties. So to balance that, how often we cut our property to how much we expect others to cut theirs is always a challenge. And we typically respond to complaints first and foremost, and then to whatever we observe when we're driving around dealing with other issues in the village. And we do have some properties in the village that need some work. That's probably being polite in my description. And it's been a challenge, frankly. But I'm grateful that some property owners are being very cooperative, and others I'm hopeful will be as time goes on.
Great. That's all I have. I think we're adjourned at 8:47. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks for the conversation. And please drive home safe. Go Bears. Well, you conversation.